Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Matt, and today I wanted to talk about language learning immersion and practical language learning immersion. Elements that you can take into your own language learning journey as you go about learning whatever language that you're learning. And I think that when people think about immersion, they probably think of living in the foreign country of the language that they're learning, right? And for a lot of people, that's not a practical reality. It's not something they can do. But that being said, you can incorporate kind of ideas from that into your language learning to help you learn quicker, learn better, or just be more immersed in the process. And the thing about it is that just because you live in the country of the language that you're learning doesn't necessarily guarantee you success or results. There's plenty of cases where people live in a foreign country of the language that they're learning, and they really don't get a lot out of it. They aren't fluent after their experience. They didn't really learn that much, and in a lot of cases, it was just those people not taking the initiative, right? Not taking the initiative to either continue their studies or just not being super social and talking with a bunch of people or just leveraging that experience. But in other cases, people really do take advantage of that time. They're very aggressive, and then they come out of it with some very solid language skills. So the question is, how can you apply some immersion ideas when you don't live in the foreign country of the language that you're learning, right? Well, I think that there's a couple of ways to approach it, right? And obviously, when you're living in another country, you have the advantage of very easy access to practice speaking in the language that you're learning. All of the kind of audio that you hear is in that language, generally speaking. You're constantly reading the text as you walk on the street, right? Well, one kind of easy way is just things that you have and you do normally. Change the language options to the foreign language that you're learning, right? So this is something I think that some people just never think to do, right? Like if you use Netflix, switch your Netflix just language option to French or German or whatever language that you're learning. And it's going to be very intimidating at first. It's going to be very overwhelming because you're so used to navigating in English that it just feels weird. It just feels off. And it's probably going to be a little bit less effective compared to using the interface in English. But that being said, over time, you get more comfortable, right? You get more comfortable, you learn the words, you kind of get comfortable with reading and navigating things, you create associations, and hopefully you're learning those words, and then you can kind of navigate in Netflix in the language that you're learning. And it could be other things, right? It could be, your menus in Steam. It can be even changing your computer or how you consume news, right? Like let's just say you're going to commit to only consuming the news in Spanish, right? You're going to watch your news or listen to your news, read your news in Spanish, and just forget about English for a little bit, right? You can take this kind of immersion approach as deep as you want, right? There's kind of an approach out there. I think it's called like Japanese all the time or something equivalent to that, where people basically fully immerse their lives in the language they're learning, right? They don't use English, they don't watch movies in English or anything like that. But I think for some people, they don't want to do that, but you can take some immersion with you as you go about learning, right? Whether that's just something as simple as changing like I said, the menu options on something like Netflix where you get more comfortable with it. Because it's helping you to not only just learn words, but just kind of get comfortable with the language, getting comfortable with this overwhelming feeling, and just getting more fully immersed in the language itself. And I think this is big, right? Because sometimes when you want to consume compelling content, you want to do these things. The second you kind of get resistance, people want to shy back away to beginner material, or they get really discouraged. And this is going to happen with a lot of compelling content, whether it's playing video games in a foreign language, whether it's listening to podcasts or reading. At first, when you see that text and you don't know a lot, it's going to be very overwhelming. You're going to feel a little discouraged. But eventually you get comfortable with that. You get comfortable with not knowing. You get comfortable with the burst of information at you, whether it's from a reading perspective or listening to audio content, and you get more comfortable with it. And so you can apply like the same concept, change the interface of things that you use on a daily basis, but just use your target language. You don't have to do this forever. Just try it for a little bit. Or if you follow a certain news, just try to consume that news in your target language. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach things, right? You could use the approach of never using English and only speaking in French or German, but like I said, for most people, it's not very practical. So the more that you're exposed to the language just on an hour by hour basis, the better, right? You're kind of semi-replicating the immersion experience. And a great way to do that is just the things that you normally do on a daily basis, which is navigating with your phone, navigating on the internet or things like that. Just change that language. Just try to have, French or German or whatever language that you're learning kind of more a part of your daily life, right? It's where you see it more often versus English, right? That's kind of how you get more immersion, more exposure, more comfortability, and ultimately kind of learn more overall, right? Is it going to be the biggest difference maker in the end of the day? It probably helps a little bit. It won't make you fluent in a week or anything, but it's just some of those kind of small things that you can do to hopefully help you to learn the language more or get more and more immersed in the whole process. So that's what I had to say. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.